Hi, I'm Big Joe Lewis, and welcome to the Blues Kitchen.
Big Joe Louis is a very dear and long-term friend of the Blues Kitchen. Originally from Jamaica, Big Joe Louis moved to London in the 1970s. He's since played with everyone from Fleetwood Mac's Peter Green to David Honeyboy Edwards, Homesick James, and even R.L Burnside. With a shared love of R.L Burnside's recordings, we sit down to discuss playing with the notorious bluesman in the early 90s. And, as is customary in this series, Big Joe Louis performs his very own version of R.L.'s See My Jumper Hanging on the Line. Big Joe Louis.
Liam.
Welcome to Blues Kitchen.
Hey.
Lovely to see you, sir, as
Thank
ever.
you for having me here.
So, I'm going to start with a story of my own, actually, before we get into things. We're going to be chatting and you're going to be performing an R.L Burnside tune later on. But when we were in the process of opening up the very first Blues Kitchen, getting on 8-9 years ago, you were the very first musician that I got in touch with to play a show. Yeah, the very first person. Okay. I'd kind of been popping along to shows and seen you play in various places around town. But yeah, you were the first person that I got in touch with. I'm really interested to know when you first picked up a guitar. Am I right in thinking that you grew up in Jamaica?
Yeah, I was born and raised there. And when I came to this country, I had a lot of adjusting to do in just about every way. You know, the weather, the way I spoke, people's, everything, and music. And so I got here and everyone was into Deep Purple and Led Zeppelin and all that rock stuff.
So is this in the 70s?
Yeah, late 70s. Mid to late 70s. And I just couldn't, I tried to get into it. You know, you try and fit in with everybody, and I didn't know where to start with all that stuff, okay? So I was still listening to soul and reggae, and then I heard some blues, and my mother bought me a Skip James album.
It's a pretty good starting point.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Double LP.
Arguably the finest guitarist there is.
Oh, just something, I just fell in love with the way he sang and the stories he told in his songs. So him and Howling Wolf were the two that really got me started. And I had played the saxophone before. That was my first.
I never knew that.
First instrument. Yeah, I used to play sax. So I picked up the guitar late. I was probably about 18, 19. And I would just sit at home listening to records, and I thought, oh, it'd be nice to kind of just get involved with the music a little bit more, you know. So you pick up and you start fiddling around, and the stuff I was listening to, Jimmy Rogers, Lightning Hopkins, I found it easy to get a simple grasp of how they were playing.
Is there anything from your childhood in Jamaica? I mean, obviously, you know, I can say reggae, but is there any musical influence that you brought along with you when you moved over here in the 70s that stuck with you until now?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the reggae, but also soul music was big. It's very popular, and, you know, we used to hear it, and people would do covers of soul records, reggae covers of soul records, but also gospel. My father was a big Mahalia Jackson fan.
Okay.
And he used to play her LPs, and he would say to me, "This is the best singer ever." Something like that. He would just love it. And my parents both worked in the theatre. And
is this in Jamaica?
In Kingston, yeah. They were directors and actors and stuff. And they had friends who sang. They had an a cappella group, and they would sing folk songs, called Jamaica folk singers, but they would also sing gospel songs, you know, like Kumbaya and all that kind of stuff. But I can remember them being in our house singing a cappella. And
when you were very young?
When I was a kid, yeah. And we'd go to church, and the church music was influenced by, you know, it wasn't that far away from gospel music as I remember. So I guess that's where it all came.
Well, let's have a bit of a chat about R.L Burnside.
Yeah, all right.
Because I know this is something that's quite close to both of our hearts, this one.
Yeah.
So, for me personally, I've got a couple of records here, actually, which I'll dig out. So, this record, An Ass Pocket Whiskey, was, I don't need to show it to you, you know these records, inside out, back to front, but it was very much, for me, the gateway to that modern 90s blues sound
Yeah.
as much as anything else, and the Fat Possum side of things. Now, the tune you're going to be doing, I think, was first recorded for this set of recordings, R.L Burnside.
Is that the George Mitchell?
Yes.
Stuff from 67, yeah.
From 67 or 68, I think, maybe.
Okay.
And there's a version of Jumper on the Line on here, Rolling and Tumbling, Going Down South, of course. And this is something I got into much later, you know, being the age I am. Obviously, R.L working in the 90s with bands I liked.
Yep.
It was a very easy gateway for me in my teens to get into that music. But I'm interested to know, where did you first pick up an R.L Burnside record? When did you first hear him? Because these Fat Possum releases actually quite a long time after you met and played with him.
A couple of years, yeah. I mean, in the 80s, I was just crazy about the music. You know, I was trying to track down everything I could do. I was mostly buying old records, so I was collecting 78s and 45s from when I was, 20 years old. And the great thing about that was that I would meet a lot of older people that knew a lot more about the music than I did. So I would buy something and they'd say, well, if you like that, have you heard this guy? No. So that was fantastic. And I think one of those people probably said, well, if you like Fred McDowell, do you know R.L Burnside? I forget where it was, but I think I think it was a Vogue LP.
Okay.
It was the first R.L stuff I heard. And then I got the High Water records, which David Evans produced about 84. He was recording with his sons then, which was the Sound Machine.
Yes.
I would just buy all that stuff that I could find, him, Jesse May, Hempel, a lot of those acts.
You had the pleasure of actually playing with R.L.
As
well in London.
Yes.
We were just saying it was the Station Inn, wasn't it?
Station Tavern.
Station Tavern.
Yeah.
So tell us how that came about.
Well, Station Tavern was this really special venue in West London, right just about, a couple hundred meters from Grenfell Tower.
Oh, okay.
And I had a residency there for about 13 years, every week, 87 to about 2000. It was a fantastic place, and it was packed all the time, and the live music 7 nights a week. It was always free admission. And one day my Dutch agent, Helma Vogels, called me, and she used to book R.L. In fact, she ended up living with Calvin Jackson, who was R.L.'s drummer and Junior Kimbrough's drummer at some point. Anyway, she called me up and said, we're coming to England with R.L. To play a festival in Burnley or Colne, one of the big blues festivals. And he's never played London. We'd really like to hook up a show. Could you help? So I said, well, I could talk to the Station Tavern people. And so I told them, and they said, is he good? I said, yeah, he's good. And they said, well, okay.
Good?
Well, they ran a pub. They were landlords of pubs, and they, they liked the music, but yeah, anyway. So I said,
we'll leave it there,
yeah, he's good. And it was going to be on a bank holiday Monday in May 1992. So we agreed the fee, which I guess probably was about £200 or £300 for R.L. and his trio, the three of them. We advertised it and we booked it, and just everybody turned up. It was a packed night.
Wow. And you played together?
Yeah, he started off, he had a harmonica player called John Morris, who was living in the Netherlands, and a guitar player called Richard Farrell. And I remember that Helma said, R.L. just really wanted to do about an hour or so. So we had to fill up the evening. So I put a band together. We did the first set. Then R.L. came on with his trio. And then he decided that he wanted to get some more people on stage. So he asked my drummer, Brian Neville, and me, and we got up and played with him. And we finished off the evening like that.
Amazing. So from his playing, was there anything that you noticed or you picked up that night? Because I see similarities in the tunes that you play and your guitar style to R.L.'s. Was there anything that you hadn't already picked up from his records that you learned from him that night?
No, I guess I was just standing there taking it all in. I've not been really one for kind of watching and figuring out what people do. I'm not that kind of analytical or something. So I was just soaking it all up. I mean, the one thing you did notice in person was his rhythm, because it was just harmonica and guitar for most of the time, and then the second guitarist joined.
Yeah.
So he had this great driving rhythm, which you get in that hill country stuff, Fred McDowell,
Yes.
and Robert Belfour and people like that. And the way he just moved his right hand, particularly, just drive that rhythm was really, you could feel it, but you weren't concentrating on it. It was just happening to you.
So we'll get to your tune in just a moment. You're going to perform Jumper on the Line.
Yeah.
Is there anything about that tune that makes it stand out for you rather than anything else from those early R.L recordings?
I don't know. I mean, I think it was probably his piece, like his signature piece. He did record it so many times. And first I heard it, I just really, really liked it. And the way he sang it and just that rhythm he got. Yeah, just, it could have been any other ones of his songs. Going Down South is a great one. I've never sung that, but that is a great one to do as well.
Let's hear some then, if you'd be kind enough to
Sure
perform,
thing,
Chris.
of course.
So, if you'd like to introduce your tune.
I'm Big Joe Lewis, and I'm going to be singing See My Jumper on the Line by R.L Burnside.
See my jumper, Lord, hanging out on the line. See my jumper, Lord, hanging out on the line. Nobody cares, someone was on my mind. Wouldn't there be the people that had me for you? Wouldn't there be the people that had me for you? Way down here, what you trying to do? Fix my supper, Lord, and let me go to bed. Fix my supper, Lord, and let me go to bed. I've been drinking all day long, and it's gone right to my head. See my jumper, Lord, hanging out on the line. See my jumper, Lord, hanging out on the line. Nobody cares.